I don't know if you could feel it as you're taking your seats. I don't know if you could feel it in the air this week, but something happened. Fall is here. And I love it. You know who's clapping? Someone's clapping. That's parents, by the way. Parents are clapping. Parents know fall's here because it's hard to say it and admit it, but man, we're glad our kids are back in school. And by the way, can we just right now thank all of the teachers and administrators and faculty who are here? We want to say thank you for all that you do for our kids, and we are praying that this year is a remarkable year for you. But man, I love fall. Football's back. PSL is back at Starbucks. It's only $14 for a small this year, so that's good. The air is cooler. Crickets are chirping in late afternoon. The shadows are getting long. The leaves are starting to get some color in them. Man, fall is a vibe, and I'm here for it. Actually, let me take that back for a second. I'm here for it most years, but every 4 years, I just want to survive the fall. And this is one of those falls. Because on the falls that we have, general elections, something happens. But normal people take crazy pills. You know what I mean? Like people who are strong and confident the other 3 falls, but they suddenly become anxious and full of fear. And people grow increasingly suspicious of others, wondering, hey, which side are you on? And so today, kind of with all that, I'm just saying all that to kind of set up today, I just want to share a few things with you that have been on my heart for a while related to us as a church and how we prepare to go into this fall. I'm going to share with you some ways that I have been challenged personally by God. And if you're newer here, what I love is that, you get to have a little bit of a behind-the-scenes view of how we see the world here at LCBC. This is a great weekend for you because you get to see what we're all about, what we're trying to be about here as a church. Before we jump into that, I'll just say that we've been in this series called Letters from My Future Self, and the whole month of August, we've been really exploring how we can gain wisdom for life, to live successful and thriving lives. God desires and wants for you to live a successful, thriving life. We've been working through the book of Proverbs, which is a collection of small wisdom statements written by a king named Solomon. In the last few weeks, we've seen that God makes it real clear in the Proverbs that if you want a successful life, if you want to live with wisdom, you're going to have to pay attention to your words. We looked at that a couple weeks ago. You're going to have to pay attention to the words that come out of your mouth because words matter. Last week, boy, it was a doozy. We unpacked the reality that if you want to live a successful life, you've got to treat sex as a gift from God, placing it in the sacred context of marriage. And man, I don't know if you were here last week or not, but I bet you never thought you'd hear some of those words in church that you heard last week. I was sitting with my teenage son. I was sweating a couple times. But listen, here's the thing, man. We say this all the time here, and you should just know this. If we can't talk honestly and openly about the most real, important issues of our lives in church, like sex, where else in the world can we talk about these kinds of things? And so today, I want to look at a proverb. I want to go back to the Proverbs, and I want to go back to this proverb that kind of sets the stage for us living wise lives, but also has significant implications for us as a church that we'll see in just a moment, for how we go into these next couple of months together. Here's the proverb. It's Proverbs chapter 4. As we read this, kind of see if you can find the principle in this. It's Proverbs 4, 25 through 27 says this. It says, look straight ahead. Fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. Man, I love how simple this is, how straightforward this is. This proverb right here is all about the power of focus. The principle that God is putting in front of us here is that a focused life is a well-lived life, a life of intention and focus. It's interesting to me that when we go through seasons of life that aren't really fulfilling, we'll say things like this. When we ever said something like this or heard someone say something like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm drifting. Or maybe I just feel like I'm off a little bit. What is that? That's a way of kind of saying, man, we just feel aimless. We don't feel like we have focus right now. I want you to know that God did not design you. He did not create you. He did not make you to drift through life. God has designs for your life. God created you with purpose and intention. God stitched every fiber of your being together, your personality, who you are. He placed you at this moment in human history because He has a purpose and design for your life. He has direction for your life. And ultimately, the ultimate direction that He has for you is for you to know Him and walk with Him in relationship. And the 3 real simple things that I just want us to see here in this proverb that God is saying is that a wise person, a person who will live a successful life, is someone who does three things. This is what we're going to unpack real quick. It's someone who, you got to know what you're running after in life. You got to know what you're running after. You got to make a plan to run after it, and then you got to stay focused on that plan. You got to know what you're running after. You got to make a plan. You got to stay focused. Let's talk about that first one real quick. You got to know what you're running after in life. Remember, this is how he started the whole proverb. He said, look straight ahead. Know where you're going. Lock your eyes. Fix your eyes on what lies before you. See, a successful, God-honoring life always starts with a vision for where you want to end up. To look straight ahead, to determine your destination, to fix your eyes on it. There's such power in a life of vision. It's such a powerful thing, isn't it, when a family gets together and seeks God and says, God, what do you want our family to fix our eyes on? What do you want our family to be about? And then you make a decision. You go, I'll tell you what we're going to be. We're going to be a family that honors each other. We're going to be a family that serves others. We're going to be a family that encourages each other with our words. That's what we're fixing our eyes on. It's powerful when as a couple in your marriage, you go, this is the kind of marriage we're going to have. We're going to fix our eyes on this. I'm going to be the husband, a kind of husband that will lay down my life for my spouse, for my wife. Why? Because Christ laid down his life for me. That's what I'm fixing my eyes on. I'm going to be a kind of wife that respects and honors my husband so he never has to guess about how much I believe in him. That's the kind of wife. You fix your eyes on that. There's something powerful when you go in the marketplace, in the workplace, at my place of employment. You go, man, this is the kind of contributor at work I'm going to be. I'm going to always prioritize people over projects. I'm fixing my eyes on that because God has placed me here to impact people. It's powerful when you go, if you lead in the marketplace or if you lead a team or if you manage people and you go, man, this is the kind of leader I'm going to be. I'm going to use the influence I have to serve the people around me. The starting point of wisdom is seeking God and asking God, what intention, what aim do you have for my life? So I'll just ask you, what are you focused on? Do you have focus for your life? What have you set your sights on? What are you walking towards? Solomon says that's where it starts, but you got to do the next thing, which is you got to make a plan. Remember what he said? He said, mark out a straight path for your feet. Set a course. You got to have a direction. You got to have a plan. You got to set a course to get there. You know, our goals are only as strong as the structures and plans we put in place to get there. We're a couple of weeks away now from the start of the NFL season, which this is great news for Dallas Cowboys. It's like for the, you still got 2 more weeks of not being behind in the standings, so you're good. It all changes in a few weeks. I'm sorry, but anyways, this is a great time of year to be an NFL fan, right? Because every team's equal on equal ground. But there's a handful of teams, they've put all the right pieces in place to make a push to do special things this season. Go Birds. But they put all the right pieces in place. There's a handful of teams like that, actually. And what's interesting is that every one of the top teams in the NFL, they have the exact same goal right now. What is it? To win the Super Bowl. That's right. They've all set their eyes. In other words, they fixed their eyes on a goal, right? But see, goals are not what will set those teams apart from each other. They have the same goals. It's the structures the teams put around those goals that end up setting one apart from the other. In other words, it's not the intensity and passion for the goal that leads to success. It's the practical, down-to-earth plans you put in place in pursuit of that goal. What structures? I'll ask you, what structures and plans have you put in place that are helping lead you to where God's calling you to go in your life? Let's think about from the negative. What are there structures in place that are working against you from going there? I mean, if you're aiming to be a husband that's committed to knowing your wife and making sure that she knows that she's seen by you, a structure might be you put date nights on the calendar. That's a structure. That's going, I'm going to put plans in place to get to where I've set my sights. You're making plans now. You're setting the path in order to become who you believe God's calling you to be. If you're aiming at being a relational leader in the marketplace so you can make a personal impact on the people you work with, you may need to put plans in place to find personal touch points with your teams, your employees, recognizing birthdays, knowing when their kids are getting married, recognizing anniversaries. These are just plans, right? These are ways of saying, here's the path I'm going to set to get there. See, wise people ask God where he's leading them. They set their eyes on it, and then they make plans around it. There's one more thing. One more thing Solomon says and mentions here, that if we want to live with the wisdom of a focused life, this last thing might be the most important of all. And it's simple. Don't get sidetracked. Don't get sidetracked. Know where you want to go. Set the course. Don't get sidetracked. In other words, I'll sum it up. Stay focused. Stay focused. What are we going to do in order to pursue wisdom in this life? You're going to do three things. You're going to know what you're running after. You're going to make a plan to run after it. You're going to stay focused. And God says, you do that. You do that. There's wisdom in this. I can do a great work in the lives of people who know where I'm leading them, who make plans to run after it, and then ignore distractions and stay focused. And I want you to hear me. This is absolutely true for you personally today. We could stop right now. Some of you be like, that'd be awesome, man. It's like a 30-minute gathering. I can go home, eat, whatever, right? We could stop right now, and you'd have enough to chew on for the next week on this. Because you got to ask, what am I running after? What plans have been in place? And am I staying focused? But as much as we can stop now and just think personally, I want us to think as a church. Because this is also true for us collectively, organizationally as a church. You know, I believe one of the greatest responsibilities I have here is to keep us focused. Keep us focused on running after, as a church, what we're running after as a church and where God's leading us, to make plans to run after it and to keep us focused. And in LCBC, this is the simplest way I know how to put the burden that I feel for us as a church as we step into this fall. It really comes down to those two simple and yet powerful words. And this is it: stay focused. We're going to stay focused this fall. I got a little bit of a confession, if we can just keep it between us, if you don't mind, and the rest of the world watching. Man, I've been dreading this fall. That's my confession. I have been dreading this fall. Because you may have forgotten it, but see, I still remember 2020. You put it out of your memory, but it's in mine. No, you didn't. I see, because some of you are like, yeah. I remember the division, the anger. I remember the bitterness. I heard and I saw people drawing dividing lines, name-calling, shaming others because of politics and differences of opinion. And as burdened as I felt for our country in 2020, and I felt real burden for our country, I'm just going to tell you now, what broke my heart, though, what was disheartening was watching how followers of Jesus responded. I kind of expect everybody else to act that way, but not Christians. And we saw people leave churches. Think about this. We saw people leave churches because their church wouldn't take stands on a political issue, on a partisan issue. We saw well-meaning, good leaders and pastors, men and women, some of them I know personally, men and women of integrity, take shots from all sides, having to weigh out every single word so they wouldn't be misrepresented. We saw Christians respond with bitterness to people who disagreed with them. We saw church after church after church lose focus. So yeah, I've been dreading the fall, hoping that it is not a repeat of 2020. And the mindset, again, confession time, the mindset that I've had for the first half of this year, from January up to this summer, the mindset has just been this. I've said this to myself 1,000 times: just get through the fall. Just get through. Just get through the fall. Let's just get through the fall. But I want to tell you something. I don't feel that way anymore. This summer, I had a little bit of a break, and I was able to just do a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, a lot of praying. And I need to tell you that I was challenged personally. I was challenged by God related to that mindset. And here was the challenge that God brought to that mindset, and the challenge that God brought to my heart. And I want to share it with you. And it was this: God does not call us to just get through anything. God doesn't call us to just get through anything. In fact, God tells us that He will give us all we need to confidently step into new seasons of life, even the most challenging ones. He calls us to be strong and courageous. Jesus actually promised at one point that He will build His church, and even the gates of hell will not be able to stand against it. That is not a just get through it statement. And I spent a lot of time this summer reading some of the letters in the New Testament that the Apostle Paul wrote to some young pastors trying to lead through difficult seasons. And at one point, Paul says this to a young leader named Timothy. This is one of the letters. He says this. He says, Timothy, remember this: God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but He's given us a spirit of power and love and self-discipline. I just want you to see this. I want you to know this. Anytime you're afraid, anytime we are afraid, anytime we are anxious, We should dig and get to the bottom of that. Where's that coming from? And we can dig all day where it might be coming from. But one thing you can rest assured of, it is not coming from God. He doesn't give you a spirit of fear. He doesn't breathe anxiety into your life. And slowly, this summer, my mindset and my heart were completely reoriented by God. LCBC, I want you to hear this. We are not just getting through this fall. We're going to thrive this fall as a church. We're going to take new ground, this church. We're going to introduce more people to Jesus. We're going to make our love easy to see. We're going to worship, we're going to pray, and we are going to live with unity. But guys, that will only happen if we stay focused. And so I just want to set our sights today. I want to set our sights on what we're going to stay focused on this fall, and it's really simple. We're going to stay focused on who Jesus is, and we're going to stay focused on the mission he's given us. We're going to stay relentlessly focused. We're going to narrow our focus as a church even more intensely on who Jesus is and on the mission that he has given us. And I want to set the course for where we're going so that no matter how loud the distractions get, we stay the course. So let me unpack this. First is this. We're going to stay focused on who Jesus is. Here's why. The more focused we are on the person of Jesus, his power, his strength, his goodness, the less weighty the circumstances around us become. The more dialed in and focused we are on the character of Jesus and who he is, the more stable, the more anchored we are when everything else is shaking around us. Because he doesn't shake. And he doesn't change. I want you to listen to this description of Jesus. Listen to this. Man, this is amazing. Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created. Now listen to this. And Jesus Christ is supreme over all creation, supreme over every election, supreme over every candidate, supreme over every fear, supreme over every sickness, supreme over everything. He's supreme, for through him, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. And then Paul goes on, he says this, he says, he made the things that we can see, the things we can't see, such as thrones and kingdoms and rulers and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through Jesus and for Jesus. Guys, it's hard for an election to shake you when you know the one who's already on the throne. Do you need solid ground today? Do you need some solid ground to stand on? Are you anxious over the future? Jesus is supreme over all creation. He is our solid ground. Our solid ground has never been, it will never be a political party, a candidate, or any ideology. Those are fading and worthless compared to the surpassing power of Jesus. We are going to stay focused, LCBC, on who Jesus is. And let me just encourage you real practically. I'll kind of make it real practical for a second. Be careful what you feed your mind with these next couple months. Now, this is going to be real challenging for some of you. And if you're not a Christian, you're here and you're kind of just dipping your toes in and maybe considering becoming a Christian and all that. You know, you can do with this what you want. But if you follow Jesus, you're a life changed by Christ. I'm just going to tell you what the scriptures say about this, what the Bible says about this. When we feed our minds and our lives with content that drives fear, that magnifies anxiety, it's not from God. In fact, in one of those letters that Paul wrote to that leader, Timothy, he tells Timothy that he says, Timothy, you got to do everything in your power to guard against false teachers. And then I guess he imagines Timothy's probably going to wonder, well, what's a false teacher? And he says, let me define a false teacher for you. And I don't know what you would think a false teacher is. Maybe it's someone who says that Jesus isn't God or the Bible's not true. And he's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. He says, let me describe a false teacher for you. Here's what false teachers do. He says, such a person, a false teacher, has an unhealthy desire to quibble over words, the meaning of words. This stirs up arguments. He's like, their teaching it'll stir up anger and arguments, ending in jealousy and division and slander and evil suspicions. These people always cause trouble. You know what this means to me? If the podcast we're listening to, the content we're consuming, if the messages we're taking in, if the books we're reading, if it leads you, if after consuming that, if after listening to that podcast or after reading that thing or after watching that clip, if you find yourself a little more angry, a little bit more divided, a little bit more suspicious. Paul is saying here that that person who's given that, they are working against the way of Jesus in this world. Because we know the way of Jesus. The way of Jesus, see what Jesus produces in our lives is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. LCBC, we're going to stay focused on who Jesus is. But we're also going to stay focused on the mission he's given us. On the mission he's given us. And we don't have to guess or wonder about the mission he's given us because he made it crystal clear. One of the last things he said to his followers was this. He says, go and make disciples. Disciples as followers, bring people to me. He says, go make disciples of who? Of all nations, not just Republicans, not just Democrats, not just independent, not just people who look like you, not just people who agree with you, of all nations. Go make disciples. Jesus is saying, I want you to live your life in a way that leads others to me. See, listen, this statement right here, this is your vocation for life if you're a follower of Jesus. You got 1,000 options for what you can do for your occupation, but your vocation is set. Everything we do in life is an excuse to get that done right there. People are always like, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm like, yeah, you do. If you're a Christian, like Jesus told you, go make disciples. Go lead people to me. He says, man, I want you to see the people around you as people that I love and died for. And do whatever you can. Use whatever resources you have at your disposal, your time, your energy. It's all given to you in order to see more people come into a life-changing encounter with Jesus. Here's the way we say it here. You've probably seen it if you've been around for a little bit. Our mission as a church here at LCBC, our mission is to introduce people to Jesus and together fully follow him. That's it. This is our aim. This is our goal. This is what we get up for. We obsess over this. And what started in a garage 38 years ago is now 23 locations across the state, with even more groups meeting in smaller communities across the country, now across the world. We are on track now to baptize more people this year than we have ever baptized in a single year. We hear stories every single week of someone giving their life to Christ for the first time. We are seeing a new generation of kids and students rising up full of hope here and confidence in who God's created them to be, and they are boldly following Jesus. And I am absolutely convinced that we have seen all of these great things at our church because we have stayed relentlessly focused on that. On the mission he's given us. And we're going to stay relentlessly focused this fall on the mission of introducing more people to Jesus and together fully following him. So let me just tell you what that means. And I realize some of you're kind of newer to LCBC. We've got a ton of new people in the last 6 months here or whatever. And so what I say next, because if you've been around, you know some of these things, but maybe you don't know this because you're newer. What I say next may mean you decide this is not the church for you, and that's okay. We actually need some seats in some of our campuses, so that's all right. I don't want you to go, but it's only fair to you. Like, you should know what we're about so you can make a decision, right? I mean, that's only fair to you. As a church, here's what I want you to know. As a church, we've always been aggressively nonpartisan. We have never endorsed candidates. We've never made some official statement about court decisions, but for some reason, the last few years, we've gotten more people asking us to endorse candidates. And we've had more people ask us something like this: when will our church take a stand? I've gotten that question. Some of you email, whatever, like, when's our church going to take a stand? Which usually, by the way, just means, when are you going to take my stand? That's another sermon for another day. And guys, I got to tell you, I've seen some churches in the past couple of years take stands. I've seen some churches, you probably have too, take stands that would be considered more progressive and left-leaning in their positions. They've taken a stand. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to make a wild guess about those churches. I'm just going to guess they probably don't have many Republicans in that church. I've also seen some churches take public stands towards more right-leaning, what would be considered right-leaning positions. And I'm just going to guess. I'm guessing there's probably not many Democrats in that church. And the reason we will not lead with political positions here is because we're not trying to lead people to a political party. We are trying to lead people to Jesus. And if that's the case, why in the world would we alienate half the population of people we're trying to reach? that God loves relentlessly to put a stake in the ground of a camp that's something that isn't even eternal. And yeah, I'll tell you this. You should know, following Jesus has some edges to it. It challenges issues that we face as a culture. It will. We'll talk about those things. Following Jesus has implications for sex. Good grief, man. You don't get more countercultural than last week. You really can't. That's taking a stand and that's saying, look, God, how do you get more countercultural than saying that God designed sex to be its sacred potential to be reserved in the context of a safe marriage between a husband and his wife? That's countercultural. Following Jesus has implications for identity and marriage and integrity and the value of every human life. We'll talk about those all day long, but those aren't political issues. Those are biblical ones. Those are issues that Jesus gives us direction on. And I'll just tell you, I feel this tension sometimes. I've got very real convictions about politics, me, Jason, personally, about the economy, about what we should be doing, about cultural hot button issues in this world. I've got all sorts of opinions and convictions. Just ask Jenny. She will tell you. But here's what I want you to know about our church and our leadership. Man, this church is led by pastors, not pundits. Pastors and leaders who are focused on creating a church where there's no entry test here for someone that they need to pass political entry tests before they can come here and meet Jesus. Because here's what I've learned, man, from my life. As much as I love my opinions, and I love them. I love my opinions and my convictions. I love people way more than I love my personal opinions about politics and culture. I love Jesus way more, and I hope, I want you to hear this, I hope you develop deeply held personal opinions and convictions. I hope you're engaged politically. I hope you serve on boards in your community and serve in the schools and get active. I hope you vote. I hope you vote. You're Christ-informed conscience. I'm going to. I want you to be involved, but we can never let our convictions outpace our compassion because Jesus didn't come to change our politics. He came to change our hearts. He came for all people, including the ones you disagree with most. And I know that you know that, and I know that you believe that. You want to know how I know that? You want to know how I know that you're a church that rises above all that and you don't want to get hijacked by politics and fighting enemies? Here's how I know it. Because see, we've got thousands of names written down on our stage at all of our different campuses. Tens of thousands of names. These are names of people that are near to us but far from God. Names of people that we want to see find the hope and freedom and grace of Jesus Christ. These are people we are praying for. These are people we are inviting. And do you know what not one of those names has beside it? I've looked. None of those names have beside them Democrat, Republican, gay, straight, man, woman, black, white, Latino. You know why? Because you know that the only category that truly matters is lost or found, far from God or child of God. That is what matters most. And listen, I know, I'll prepare you for this. There's people who will criticize us as a church for this kind of way forward. I've read books. I've heard podcasts. Some of you have sent me the books and podcasts for me to listen to. I've listened to the sermons from others that would say that a church is being cowardly if they just hide behind, well, we just want people to know Jesus, instead of engaging the political and cultural hot button issues of the day. Guys, I could not disagree more. That's my response, I guess. Because here's what I know. It's not even me. I just believe this. This is in Colossians 1. Paul says this same good news, the good news about what? About Jesus. About him giving his life to save you. This same good news that came to you, it's going out all over the world. Listen, what? The good news about Jesus. It is bearing fruit everywhere by changing lives. Just as it changed your lives from the day you first heard and understood the truth about God's wonderful grace, only Jesus can change our lives and transform our hearts with his love and grace. No political party, no political ideology, no candidate. And how tragic, guys, how tragic would it be that we convince someone to our side politically and lose them for eternity? And what I know about every single one of you is that when you invite your friends and your family members this fall to come, you're going to save a seat for them at one point. You're going to invite them here this fall to church. Some of you, you're going to invite the people's names you've written on this stage. I walked up a moment ago. I've seen it a couple times. This one right here, it just says Dad. This is personal for us. And when you invite your dad, when you invite Adrian, when you invite Josiah, when you invite Kendra, when you invite your friends to join you this fall at church, I'm telling you, no one is going to be praying all night before church or praying all afternoon before church, begging God that they'll just hear a great partisan message on a political candidate. You will be begging God that they encounter Jesus, that they hear from God. LCBC, we're going to stay focused on who Jesus is and the mission he's given us. I believe if we do that, we are going to see God do a great work in our midst. You know what makes the church the most powerful force of potential in this world? It's because the church is the assembly of men and women. Look around you right now. Men and women, young and old, from different political backgrounds, different opinions, different races, who are bound together and united in one mission, that we would win as many possible to Jesus. That's the focus of this fall. We're going to organize ourselves around this. That's the focus, but Solomon said, hey, wisdom is you also got to make plans. So I want to tell you what our plans are. Our plans are to walk after this. Let me just kind of walk through the fall real quick. In September, how are we going to do this? We're going to get into a series called Jesus in His Own Words. I can't wait for this, because the reality is too many people have been told who Jesus is by certain media outlets or certain, other different, online or whatever, and they've never gone to the source. We're going to let Jesus just speak for himself. In fact, my guess is people in your life who think they walked away from Christ, they just walked away from Christians. And it's not the same thing. And they've never explored who Jesus said he was. You want them here in September. Because we're just going to go straight to the source. Jesus, in your own words, who did you say you were? We're going to let him speak in his own words. I can't wait for that. We're going to put out groups content in September. We're going to launch groups because we want you connected with people. We want you in Christ-centered relationships here, and we provide content for you to kind of go a little bit deeper. And we're putting out groups content, faith, fear, and politics, to help you kind of understand how do you navigate politics and still, maintain your convictions, but also be a compassionate follower of Jesus. How do you work through that? It's going to create great conversation. We're going to put out a podcast. If you haven't subscribed to the Live Change podcast, subscribe today. We put out a ton of stuff to kind of walk with you through the week. We're going to put out a podcast in September where we're just going to answer your questions, actually, about politics and faith and how to be compassionate and still have convictions, all that. So whatever you want to talk about, we're going to put this up on social media, I think, this week. What do you want to talk about when it comes to politics and faith and all that? We're going to just have a podcast where we address that. So that's coming in September. October, we're going to go into a series called Not Up for Debate. See what we did? See what we did there? Anyways, you know why? Because you can choose whether or not you want to follow Jesus. Everybody, you get to choose that. But if you choose to follow Jesus, you don't get to choose what that looks like, because Jesus told us what it looks like. And Jesus says there's some things that are just not up for debate. Man, you want to follow me? He says, I'm going to call you to be people who love your enemies, people who don't worry about the future, because we already know the God who's in control. We're going to look at the kind of people he forms us into. I can't wait for that. And then at the end of the month, the week leading up to the election, we're going to spend an entire week, 24 hours a day for those 7 days praying. I'm going to invite you in on that. I'd love for every one of you to be a part of it. And you're like, pray for how long? No, 10 minutes. We're just going to ask you to take a 10-minute slot. You take the 3 a.m. slot, you're going to get a gold star from Jesus, all right? So I'm just saying. So that's coming, and can't wait. You know why we're going to do this? You know why we're going to do this? Because the New Testament says, be anxious for nothing, but instead pray about everything. Well, what if we just did that? So that's what we're going to do. November, in the middle of that week of prayer, we're going to have a worship night. Not every campus, but some of our campuses, there will be one near you, around you. Get to that. We're going to point our attention in a divine direction. Why? Because we're going to keep our focus on who Jesus is. And then in November, we're going to give away a ton of money to local nonprofits. We're going to make sure people around us are taken care of. We're going to send hope packs into thousands of prisoners in prisons across the state to remind them that there is a church that loves them, that has not forgotten about them, because there's a God who loves them and has not forgotten about them. And then we're going to serve our communities. That's where we're going. That's where we're going. That's not all we're doing, by the way, this fall. We've got kid dedication. We've got trunk or treats coming, baptisms. But this is our plan right here for staying focused on who Jesus is and the mission he's given us. We're going to send this out to you. Probably in the next couple weeks, if we've gotten your information, if you've given that to us, we'll send this out to you so you can have this. You can also go into our LCBC app. You can find it there as well. But guys, I just want to say it one more time. Say it one more time. We're not just getting through this fall. We're going to take new ground as a church. We're going to see more people give their lives to Christ. We're going to see more people get baptized. We're going to see relationships mended. We're going to see addictions broken. And I believe that is going to happen because we choose to stay focused. I'm so grateful. I just got to tell you, I am so grateful to God for the opportunity He's given us this fall. What a gift these next couple months are. What a gift. In a world that's divided, we get to show the world what unity looks like. Do you know how attractive that's going to be? In a world that's afraid, we get to shine with confidence in a God who's in control. In a world that puts their hope in powers and people that will ultimately fail them, we get to invite people here to meet the only true King who is supreme and who rules and reigns above it all. What an opportunity for us. And so I'm inviting you. I'm inviting all of you who want in on that. If you want to live with faith over fear, if you want to be agents of hope, if you want to live with peace, if you want to be light where there's darkness, I'm inviting you to lean in this fall, to be here. Be here this fall. Lean in. I'm asking you to love more deeply in the days ahead, to pray with intensity, to worship with passion, and to invite others here with urgency. I'm asking you to stay focused. Stay focused on who Jesus is and the mission He's given us. I'd love for you to stand right now, wherever you are. Would you just stand? Because this is how we're gonna leave here today. We're gonna leave here right now with our eyes and our hearts focused on who Jesus is. The all-powerful, all-good Savior who is supreme over all things. And if you're here today and you've been a little bit shaken lately, if you've been a little anxious lately, if your fears over an unsure future have led you to anger and bitterness or division, if you need some assurance today about the future, I want us to leave here remembering that we may not know who the next president will be, but we already know the King. And I just want us to leave here, and I want us to leave here pointing our attention in the direction of Jesus right now. So let's fix our eyes and our hearts on the only one who can save. Let's sing.
Your name is the highest. Your name is the greatest. Your name stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions. Your name stands above them all. Jesus, your name is the highest. Your name is the greatest. Your name stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions. Your name stands above them all, and the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. If you've been forgiven, if you've been redeemed, sing the song forever to the Lamb. If you walk in freedom, if you bear His name, sing the song forever to the Lamb. We'll sing the song forever and amen. And the angels cry, holy, all creation cries.
LCBC, we're going to stay focused. We're going to stay focused this fall, focused on who Jesus is and the mission that he's given us. And I cannot wait to see all that God does in your life this fall, all that God does in the life of this church. So let's lean in. If you want to pray about anything today, we'd be privileged. We'd be honored to pray with you. You can come down front, all of our rooms, down in the front left. If you want to pray, you can always leave a prayer request on our website or on the LCBC app as well. We'll be praying for you. Hey, next week, you do not want to miss. We're wrapping up our series, the book of Proverbs. It's going to be such a helpful, practical weekend, and you want to be here for it. Until then, LCBC, stay focused, and may the Lord bless and protect you, and may the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next week.